I'm Dr. Jordin Wiggins, and this is the Pleasure Principles podcast. Join me on this journey where sex, science, and sensuality meet. Let's change the conversation around sex and pleasure together. It was interesting because I was with my team months ago and we knew we wanted to do a year-end event. We did one last year. We were debating what to do. And my initial thought was to sort of do something fluffy or pleasure and life is amazing and motivational. But I didn't pick the topic until really last minute because something was off. Something was telling me that wasn't what I needed to talk about, or that wasn't the topic. It just didn't settle right with me for some reason. So it's interesting because I didn't pick the topic. And then just in the conversations that I've been having with the women in the Pleasure Collective, my one-on-one clients, my patients, there's this heaviness. There's this lack of joy. So who's exhausted? Who is lacking patience and snapping? Who feels a mess? Who feels like they could break down and cry? This collective experience that I've been hearing over and over, I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think that given the last year and a half, almost 2 years we've had with the pandemic and the extra workload that has meant for women, we're seeing more burnout, more depression, more resentment in relationships falling apart. We're not alone. Even when you do the work and lead the work, we're not exempt from these things happening. So who is the superwoman in their relationship? The person who's the organizer, who makes sure there's food in the fridge, who makes sure there's Kleenex. And that has been with all the sickness going around in my household, the Kleenex has been a commodity, but who makes sure there's toilet paper in the toilet thing, food in the fridge, Kleenex, paper towels, that your kids have what they need for school, who books the doctor's appointments, who's the sign off on everything and give the final go ahead person, even at work, right? This could be at work. You take on the extra at work, you take on the extra at home. The extra workload that has landed on us, the women, it makes sense that we're a little snappy, a little crusty, a little sharp. What about the phrase, go ask your mother? Who's that in their household? Or go ask blank in the workplace, go ask Jordin. You're the person that knows, you just know. These things are not a coincidence that we're seeing more burnout, more depression, and relationships falling apart. All of these questions that I just asked is directly linked, and we're going to talk about that today. You're probably here because you feel any or all of those things that I just mentioned: disconnected, burnt out, exhausted, resentful. And this is so normal for the women that I work with. We're the caretakers, we're the overgivers, we're the ones in control, we're the get shit done people. And we do it because we're excellent at it. Everyone around us, our families, our coworkers, the people that we supervise at work, they know this. They know that they can count on us to get things done. And being this way has brought us a lot of success. We have the degrees, we get the promotions, we meet our targets. But what is it at the expense of? It's keeping us depressed, burnt out, resentful, and it's keeping us from having the love, connection, and ease that we want in life. And we're gonna dial in, because who's done? Who's done overworking, controlling, editing, thinking for everyone else? Who's fucking done? But we don't know how to be done. That's the trick. So we're going to talk about that today. And usually, so this is what happens. I've seen this with my patients. I've seen this with my clients in the Pleasure Collective. We're done when we are so burnt out and so exhausted that we're sick, like when we have no way out. But we didn't actually learn our lesson. We get taken out by burnout, by depression, by sickness. But then as soon as we're better, we're going back to our old ways, back to our over-functioning ways. We fall back into that rut. So how do we be done? We're going to unpack that today. And the first thing that we need to do is really take a clear look at exactly what's going on. And that's the life cycle of a superwoman. The cycle that leads us there to that place of burnout, and the cycle that keeps us in that loop. So how we actually learn to balance that is through our feminine energy and strength. But we don't trust those things. So it's really hard. So we just flip back into doing as soon as we're well enough to do so. So we're going to talk about that today. Life cycle of the superwoman and how we need the feminine to shift this and to change it. And if you are a superwoman, I can pretty much guarantee that those feminine traits, those feminine characteristics don't come naturally to you. And they need to be taught, essentially, and it's not your fault. So we'll talk about that today. Who can rest? Who can do nothing and feel good about it? The opposite of that is who, if they do rest, feels guilty or is thinking of their to-do list of, oh, I should be doing this or I should be doing that. Who feels exhausted, burnt out? Who pushes through, like even when they're exhausted, who just gets it done? Who would rather do things themselves than ask for help? I just want to tell you a story about a client that I was working with, so you can just see yourself, hopefully, and see that you're not alone. This is a collective experience, because I know as a superwoman, you are carrying the weight of so much, and it is so hard to ask for help, and you feel alone and you feel like you need to do it by yourself or there's something wrong with you, but really you're not alone at all. So this was a follow-up call with one of my clients, and she said that let me just give you a little background. Professional, manages a team of 20 in her workplace, keeps advancing her career, making more money, out earns her partner, has lives in a dream home in a neighborhood that she's always wanted to. Husband and 2 kids, has a circle of friends from her kids' school. But when we started working together, she said, I'm not happy and I wish I could snap out of it. Sex wasn't happening in her relationship with her husband. She would tell me at the time that they were a really good team. But she felt bad because her husband had like almost stopped asking to have sex, and that part, there was just like the elephant in the room. They ignored that. She could care less if she ever had sex again. And this could also be the opposite, which we will talk about later, because for some superwomen, their sex drive is actually higher than their male partners, and that presents a different dynamic, fixable, but it can go both ways for a superwoman. So when I asked her how long she felt that way, she said that it had started feeling that way. Like she started to not be so happy after they got married. It was worse after having kids, and then just seemed to get worse and worse with more promotions and responsibility. She was busy constantly and could not get on top of her growing to-do list. I always remember she went to yoga. Like that was something that she would do multiple times a week, but still couldn't rest. So Rachel had done counseling, relationship counseling, not seen a lot of shifts. She was prescribed antidepressants over and over by different healthcare providers. She had been reluctant to take them, but when we had started working together, she was just saying like, I will do anything to fix this because I'm not happy. My relationship is suffering. When we got into it, there were some underlying factors. She had a strained relationship with her mother. She held it together for her family, like her husband and her 2 kids, as well as her extended family. And her mother often favored her sister. So she always felt on the outside. She felt on the outside of her friend group as well. They would call her if they needed things, but she could never really feel comfortable talking to them about the true weight of what was going on in her life. She has super high expectations of herself. If she does a presentation at work, she will focus on the one thing that went wrong and not the 10 things that went right. I know that used to be an Achilles heel for me too. She wanted a career change. She had so much success that she felt bad even voicing the fact that her job exhausted her, because a lot of people would kill to be in her situation. She desires a closer relationship with her children and with her husband. It just feels like they're on this constant hamster wheel where she's so overscheduled that even when she does show up for family time, she's snappy, sharp, exhausted. This is what happened when we taught her to trust her feminine. She moved across the country with her family to be, first of all, in a better climate and also closer to her parents, which could help with the kids and take off some of the burden. She started her own business. She has time to do pick up and drop off or pull the kids out of school for the afternoon to have fun. She has a desire for dates and intimacy with her husband, and even said, it feels like we're teenagers again. She made new friends where the relationship feels balanced. They call on her and she calls on them, and she feels like it's equal, like it's a reciprocal relationship. And I think the most important thing for me is she knows what she wants. She can ask for what she wants. She expects to get it. She's able to rest. Her insides match her outsides. And this is a big one for superwomen, because together, on the outside, we present as very, very together. And then on the inside, we're anxious, stressed, we are a hot mess. So it's hard to see, and people almost don't even know that we need help or can't even see that we're drowning because of how we present. So for her, insides and outsides now matching. She doesn't control, she doesn't force, she doesn't try and think 10 steps ahead. She is used to the old, she's done with her old pattern, she's done with the old fighting and just feels like content. So the life cycle of a superwoman. A good girl grows up to be a superwoman. A superwoman has it all together on the outside, but feels like a hot mess on the inside. She becomes the caretaker at home, at work, with her friends. She's reliable. She gets shit done. People count on her. But on the inside, stressed, exhausted, resentful, snappy, cut off, doesn't feel like herself, feels disconnected. Her focus is solely on the masculine, doing, achieving, getting the degree, getting the promotion, making sure the kids are in all kinds of activities. And that ends up impacting her health. So it's basically 3 stages. The first one, the good girl, starts before we are even aware of it. It's the conditioning that we got as little girls growing up. Were you taught to not talk back? Kids are seen, not heard, don't argue with parents. Who was taught to get good grades? That achieving in school was very important. Who was taught, do what your mother says? That was a big one in my home. Don't be too loud. Like, girls don't yell or take up space. What about stop crying and get over it? Who was shamed as a kid for feelings that you were supposed to like toughen up? So we self-abandon our wants and needs because it is easier, because of what we've been taught. We're taught that it's better to choose being nice and make sure everyone else feels good over being safe, secure, heard, seen, loved for exactly who we are. So this sets us up for that damage because externally, like, we're constantly taught to focus external. So when we're taught from being a little girl to self-abandon and worry about everyone else and our feelings and our wants and our needs should be shoved down because they hurt the people that we love, which is our parents. This sets us up, like, our barometer is off. So stage 1, hopefully we are clear on that. And let's move on to stage 2. So the choices we make because we had this good girl conditioning and the relationship dynamics that we seek turn us into super women. So that's kind of like a hardened version of a good girl. When we're little, we want approval, we want good grades, and we want everyone to like us because we're nice. Then this morph happens as we get older, which is the like, I can do it myself. So are you a superwoman? Number 1, you emotionally support a member of your family, your kids, your husband. Maybe you emotionally support your friends. You get another tick where they come to vent to you, but it's more of a one-way street. You're the fixer. Are you the fixer for someone that you have a close relationship with? Next point, checking and correcting. Who gets the final say on things at home and who gets the final say on things at work? You get 2 points if you're the final say person at work and home. Who ignores their desires or who doesn't even know what they desire? What do you want? What do you want right now in this moment that is just for you? And if that answer doesn't like immediately come to you, or you think of a million other people or things or edit, then we have work to do on your desires. Same thing, because you've been conditioned away from knowing what you want internally and worry about everyone else externally. So not knowing your desires gets a point. Who has difficulty communicating their needs or asking for what they want? And this could be little things like you'd love to ask for help to unload the dishwasher, but it is easier to just do it yourself and you don't want the pushback. Or you don't want to keep making meals, but it's easier to just do it than ask. Maybe you can't communicate in the bedroom, or maybe you can't tell your boss that you're exhausted and burnt out and sick of overfunctioning, but things swirl around in your head. You want to ask, you want to say something, but it's hard to get it out. That gets you a point. If you have mismatched libidos in your relationship, or there is, where one partner wants more, the other wants less, the sex is non-existent, but there's something to be desired with the intimacy in your relationship. Who's the project manager? Maybe you're better at delegating, but you're doing all the behind the scenes work, the invisible workload, to make sure that everything is functioning. You get a point in your workplace. You get a point if you do that at home. Because that's a funny thing. As Superwoman, we're set up to do all of the work that doesn't get any credit, and people don't even respect it because they don't see it getting done. A lot of my clients, when they do get promoted or poached by a different company or start their own business, one thing that happens so often is that they need to hire 2 people to replace them. That's a Superwoman, because you do so much that goes unseen. Okay, what about having the same conversations, arguments over and over? If you're in a loop in your relationship, you get a point. And you get a point that when you finally do speak up, you're in tears or you're screaming because we have let it go so long. Who feels like their friendships are the surface level, that you don't have close, supportive female friends? You get a point. What about being a perfectionist? In this one, Superwomen like to be like, oh no, I'm not as bad as I used to be. Let's be real here, very honest. You will get more out of this if you're honest. So you like to be right. You like to get the right answer. You like to be prepared. You like to get straight A's in school. What about a people pleaser? You like to make sure you're not stepping on anyone's toes. You ask for lots of people's opinions before you make a decision. You are having a dinner party and you start to think, okay, this person's gluten-free and their preference is this. So like you're doing all the gymnastics, even for your friends. And people pleasers are also often the first to concede, to avoid conflict, because you'd rather just like shut it down, find another way, do it yourself than have conflict. Superwomen ignore the signs of burnout, exhaustion, everything feels heavy. We keep pushing through. You also get a point there. We swallow our emotions to make others feel more comfortable. Until very, very recently, I have been horrible at this one, that I will try to not feel to make somebody else feel good or stop a fight. Also, you get a point if you feel guilty about saying no or quitting. Okay, so Superwoman. What do? We enter into a pattern of choosing people who need us. And we start to overfunction, which allows everyone around us, husband, kids, coworkers, friends, to underfunction. Because this is just physics. So the more we do, the less someone else needs to do. We take on the invisible workload. And then we wonder why the fuck we're exhausted and why we're burnt out and why we lack joy. We're the person that gets a project done and then lets other people take credit when it was our damn idea. Or we get the Christmas gifts and we make Christmas this like magical thing and we let our husbands take the credit. It's like, no, dad didn't do shit. You had a happy Christmas because I made sure you had a happy Christmas. And I'm not like knocking men. We're just talking on in generalities. Kate, well, hey, Kate, if your man cooked the turkey, that's a one bonus. And how much praise do we give them for cooking the damn turkey and we did everything else? So it's these imbalances. Like we like to think that we are above it or we can compartmentalize it or whatever. It will erode our health. And it's why we are where we are. So that's when we start to see the burnout, depression, resentment. Our relationships start to erode because like what should happen is dad should get praise for the turkey and mom should get praise for everything else. But we do it kind of quietly behind the scenes and we overwork ourselves. And we also like to look at ourselves on paper. We're successful, we're killing it at work because those skills that we were taught in stage 1, the good girl stage, make us the perfect employee and they make us the perfect self-sacrificing partner. So we're depressed. Women are prescribed antidepressants twice as often as men, and the incidence of that is on the rise. So why are we twice as depressed? We are twice as depressed because we did all of Christmas, don't get any credit or thanks, or and our husband gets praise for the turkey. And I'm just using this as an analogy, but we're doing majority of the work, we're overworked. No one, because it's invisible, it doesn't even count. Like it's like people don't even know to thank us because we just do it and it's just done. And why would the kids think to say, Mom, thanks for making sure there's toilet paper to wipe my ass? No kid just would think of it because it's just there. So do you see the dynamic that we're setting ourselves up for? And then we're also taught, this is conditioned from generations, right? Our mothers modeled this for us. So yes, women being prescribed antidepressants more, and we start to see these patterns emerge and our relationships start to erode. And sometimes we get to the place where it's like me and my husband are a great team, but there's no spark there. The sex stuff has gone to shit. Sometimes our relationships are on the verge because we are just so exhausted, so burnt out, and nagging and fighting, which is hard. I've been there. So who feels like they are in stage 2, where they're the super woman? So stage 3, and this is the part that I would start working with women in my medical practice. Physical health starts to get affected by this, and it can lead to chronic illness. And again, women are, I think 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And these types of chronic illnesses that are on the rise are disproportionately affecting women. Because that over functioning, our bodies are not meant to put up with this much stress, take on this much long term. We were meant to deal with little bouts of stress. So where do we end up in stage 3? On the brink of divorce or breakup potentially, or already divorced. But health-wise, we have depression or something that looks like depression. But if you've read my book, The Pink Canary, we talk about anhedonia, which is lacking joy and pleasure. So I think that a lot of women, it's not actually that we're more depressed, it's that we don't know how to find our joy and pleasure. We just cannot access it because we have been conditioned to be good girls who grew up to be Superwoman. And now it's kind of looking like depression. And I saw this with thousands of women in my medical clinic and it happened to me myself also. If you read The Pink Canary or you listen to my podcast, you'll have heard my journey, my mental health journey. But it's really what we've been taught. It's not that we're actually depressed and we have a serotonin issue. It's a multifaceted thing. It's maybe that we're not sleeping enough, we're inflamed because we don't have the time to prep healthy meals, or we're so stressed we're rewarding ourselves with food. Like, it's just this web of things. But the main point is that we are anhedonic. We lack joy and pleasure and the ability to be in the moment and like enjoy, let loose, laugh, have fun, relax. We just can't do it because we're too busy doing. We're too busy stuck in our masculine. Anxious thinking, overthinking, worrying. These thoughts consume Superwomen's mind, but it is almost so normal for them that they're so used to thinking 10 steps ahead in the future. And that's the way they've operated since they were little girls, because they had to, check in and make everyone else happy, that they almost don't even realize how much of a problem it is and how exhausting it is. And sometimes I'm working with women that have an autoimmune disease or a cancer, especially a cancer of like women's organs, their breasts, their uterus, their cervix. So it's like we have given up so much of ourselves that the only way our body can communicate is by stopping us in some way. So how do we know if our health has already started to be affected by good girl conditioning? These are signs to look for. Night sweats. People love to call it hot flashes, but are you waking up sweaty at night? Also, do you have sleep disturbance, which is difficulty falling asleep? Maybe you wake up between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. Maybe you're tired all day long, but then you get this second surge of energy at night. Or we call it like tired and wired. You're exhausted, but you just can't turn it off. You can't turn off the thinking. You've gained weight or have trouble losing weight. You are exhausted. You feel like you're dragging. Your energy would probably dip in the afternoon. Maybe you're using coffee, sugar to keep you going throughout the day. That's also another common one. We don't even realize how much we're sort of like self-medicating with caffeine, sugar, sometimes even salty treats to help regulate this stress response that's going on behind the scenes. And foggy thinking is another one. just not being able to recall things, not sort of being as sharp as you used to be, and moody, mood swings, tearful, angry, snappy, but it's usually like we're caught on the low end of the spectrum. We're not ever like joyful, excited, happy. Those emotions are harder for us to access. So these are all little signs that our conditioning is starting to impact our health, and it's doing things behind the scenes. It's doing things to our nervous system. It's doing things to our hormones. It's doing things to our stress response that, when it's not in check, will lead to health outcomes. And then we're superwomen. So maybe we had cancer, or maybe we were so burnt out that we needed to take time off work. So we stop for a bit, and then we heal because we stopped. And then our bodies are like, I'm good. I'm going back to being a superwoman. Where's my cape? And then we find ourselves in this loop of burnout or depression. And maybe we've just been low grade there for years and nothing has changed. We're just not happy. We're anhedonic, and we've been that way for years and years. And our family is looking at us like, why aren't you happy? You used to be happy. What's going on? Well, years of conditioning in the making is what's going on. So how do we fix it? Have a great week, everybody.
If you like what you heard in this episode, leave me a rating. Your support helps me get discovered by more women like you. Together, we can change the conversation around women's sexual health and pleasure for you, your partners, and generations to come.